The Archdiocese of Boston announces changes to the way it will process and respond to letters addressed to Cardinal Sean O'Malley on matters related to sexual abuse. O'Malley himself will now handle all correspondence on the subject of abuse instead of being filtered through his personal secretary. The process came under heavy criticism in July when it emerged that Father Boniface Ramsey had sent a letter to Cardinal O'Malley in 2015 outlining various rumors and allegations he had heard concerning Archbishop Theodore McCarrick. And 15 years earlier, Father Ramsey informed the Vatican about McCarrick's misconduct. Last month, the letter was cited by Archbishop Bigknows in testimony alleging Pope Francis covered up the allegations. Joining me now is Father Ramsey, pastor of St. Joseph's Church in Yorkville, New York. Father Ramsey, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Wyatt. Glad to be here.
You tried to tell church leaders about Theodore McCarrick for 15 years. Do you feel that you're finally being heard?
I certainly do. I certainly do feel like I'm finally being heard.
And
being taken seriously, vindicated, if you will.
Sure. Well, just reflect on that a little bit for me. What impact has all of this had on your own faith, and how have you handled the frustration?
I just, how have I handled frustration? It's been, it's annoying not to be taken seriously or not to know if you've been heard at all. As far as my faith is concerned, it hasn't troubled my faith in the least.
And so, obviously, some of the same concerns that you voiced have been voiced by others. What did you make of Archbishop Bigknows' claims, for example, regarding a possible Vatican cover-up of McCarrick's misconduct that allegedly goes to the highest levels?
Well, really, I'm in no position to make that kind of judgment. I don't think we'll ever know until some of the people named in his testimony speak out. But as I say, I'm really not in a position, and there are certain things in his testimony. I think that's what he calls it, his testimony. There are certain things, that don't seem to be borne out by subsequent investigation. So I don't know. There are questions about his testimony.
Tomorrow, the leaders of the U.S. bishops will meet with Pope Francis, and this isn't the first clergy sex abuse scandal, of course, the Pope has had to deal with. The Holy Father, of course, has got a lot of criticism for his reaction to the Chile crisis. How do you think the Pope has handled all this abuse overall?
Well, I think it's taken him a while to get started on it, evidently. I mean, he seems to initially have dismissed some of the allegations as nonsensical, and he was a little rough on people initially. I think Cardinal O'Malley pointed that out to him, and now I think he's taking it seriously. But I also think that we need to hear from him quite soon about a lot of these allegations.
You're a parish priest yourself. What's your advice to the faithful right now, many of whom are angry, many of whom are disillusioned?
Well, I'm actually going to be addressing this coming weekend. I'm going to speak at all the masses, as other pastors have done already in other churches. I'm going to tell them my story. I'm going to tell them that I've heard from victims. I think that because of what I've done in my parish, they trust me. That's a start, I think, to being able to speak to them directly. I hope that I can tell them in some way or another to distinguish between human beings who are sinful and fallible and fall, and the church itself. I hope I'll be able to get that across.
Well, I know all of this is a tough subject to talk about, and I know it'll be one that you continue to talk about with your parishioners. Father Boniface Ramsey, pastor of St. Joseph's Church in Yorkville, New York, thanks so much for speaking with us about it.
You're very welcome, Wyatt.
And stay with EWTN News Nightly for the latest in the abuse crisis. You can also read more from our partners at Catholic News Agency and the National Catholic Register.